Good morning. Um, so the other day, a topic was posted, I believe, in the RPG video response group and or video bloggers group or whatever the heck. I can't. I'm so tired. I can't even think of the name of it. But video response community, I think, is what it is, or something. Tim Harper set it up about, oh gosh, I don't even know how long ago. Feels like a year ago, but probably less than that. Anyways, the topic was, do you need lethality or the threat of death in your RPGs to make it fun? And the more people talked, the there were differing opinions, which surprised me actually, because I feel like this was a topic that was talked about a few years ago, where pretty much everybody said yes, you need the threat of death, yada yada yada. But is that system based? For example, not all RPGs are centered around combat. A lot of them, not a lot of them, but some of them, are all about the actual role play and not about the mechanics and death and combat. Call of Cthulhu, for example, doesn't have the threat of death necessarily. You can kill people, but I don't think that's the main premise. And there's a lot of other RPGs that don't revolve around death. So then the question became, well, is it just a D&D thing? Do you need the threat of death in D&D? And once again, I was surprised by a lot of the responses I saw. People saying no, that they didn't necessarily need the threat of death to make D&D fun for them. And some of them were grognards. Some of them have been gaming for a while. Some of them I know personally. Some of them I don't. So then it got me thinking a little bit harder, because I think a couple years ago I probably would have thought that, yes, I needed the threat of death or lethality in my games as a player and as a DM. But I think it depends. So when I dug a little deeper, I was thinking, what exactly makes RPGs a lot of fun for me? And it's not whether I live or die. In fact, I've found myself in recent years being okay with my character dying, more so than in the past. I don't think that when I'm playing, I view it as a game as much as I view it as, its own world per se. So I'm still I get hung up on the rules still a little bit, from the sense that dictates the reality of the world. And so, I did a video the other day talking about, correct, suggesting what the actual rule was when a player was trying to do something outside of the rules, and the DM did not see or understand exactly what they meant, I don't think. And because, again, it alters the reality of it, which then alters my perspective of everything. But anyways, back to the death thing. So I play with some people that I think do get hung up on character death. I do not. In fact, I've always, in the last 3-4 years, it's like, if my character dies, okay, but I want a story about it. I don't want them to just die because somebody crits in a meaningless goblin encounter. I want it to be an impactful, meaningful death. And, most of the time. But, if I'm just, say we're playing D&D, and when we have combats, the players are dominating and it's not real challenging, that's okay to me, because then it makes me feel like we're a bunch of badasses. And if that's the feel of the game, that's cool. Maybe the game's more about the political intrigue now. Maybe that's where the challenge lies, or maybe it lies with the investigation of things. The challenge does not have to lie in combat. for me to have fun. A lot of times, I've heard of people having a blast because of the stories they have from their games, such as the alchemy shop that they opened, or whatever, and the profit they made on that became the fun part of the game for them. It wasn't about, oh, that one time they almost died fighting a couple orcs. That creates tension and suspense, but there's other ways to create that emotion. It doesn't always have to be with death. And I've played in games where the DM really felt frustrated that they couldn't get that feel of death across. And they wanted the fear of death across, and they wanted it to be lethal. And I've met people who hate 5th edition because they don't think that you can make it lethal. Maybe they should read the DMG. Sean Connors pointed out something in a video he did today on Facebook. And a lot of us knew about this from the DMG, but they got like the long-term or long rest, short rest rules that you can modify so that a long rest is actually a week and a short rest is a day. That's one way to do it. It's, that would be rough. Or every time you get critically hit, maybe you have to go to the permanent injuries table, or if you get dropped to 0 and you make death saves, maybe then you have to do the permanent injuries table. Plus there's the table in there that is, there's long-term injuries or whatever, permanent injuries or whatever it's called. I think it's long-term. I think there's another one for if you go crazy, kind of like a Cthulhu-esque table in there that's more psychological, but maybe that's part of the same table. I can't remember, and don't feel like pulling it out, to be honest. But those can make it fun. I know when back in the day we used to do chats in the RPG one-shot group, and me and I remember talking to Andrew Knapp and a couple other guys, and we were talking about how, every time there's a crit, we're gonna just use the long-term injuries table. And it was like, shit. Especially as you get higher level and you're fighting, like, maybe you just throw a ton of goblins at them just so you have a chance to give them a permanent injury or a long-term injury. Like, some of the stuff on there is brutal too. Like, oh, you lost an eye, and oh, you've broke a leg and it's not going to heal for so many months or whatever. Like, there's some pretty brutal things in there. So, but that stuff's kind of fun too. Like, it doesn't even have to be the fear of death. It's like, oh, now my character has an impairment. He's an archer with one eye, and this screws up his aim. Like, and his perception sucks now, even though I took the alert feed or whatever. Like, there's some things in there that it's like, damn, that sucks. This is funny. So, I don't think it's a feeling like, oh, just one more round and we all probably would have been TPK'd. I don't think that's necessary for me. I always laugh when that kind of happens, when it seems like we're close to death, but I don't need that to have fun. Excuse me. I don't need that at all. So, but that's just me. So what do you think? Do you need the threat of death in your RPGs, whether it's D&D or Star Trek or Made the RPG, Kids on Bikes, Dark Places and Demogorgons? Is death for you necessary? The potential of death for you to have fun? And I'm not talking about fudging dice rolls or anything like that. Maybe your DM is just not throwing heavy hitters at you. Throwing a bunch of goblins at you. Maybe the whole campaign is centered around goblins or kobolds or whatever. But do you need that? Do you need to feel like maybe it's not even every encounter. Maybe it's only the big encounters. You want to feel like, okay, this could be it. This character could die right here. Do you need to feel that threat of suspense, that threat of death, that on the edge of your seat, I'm going to die kind of thing? I'd love to hear your comments below. Please be sure to give me a like if you like this video and this topic. And be sure to smash that subscribe button if you haven't yet. This was Master the Game. I am Juice. Game on.